Be honest with me for a second. You've seen the videos. The big kangaroo in someone's backyard, standing up on two legs, throwing punches at a heavy bag like it's training for a title fight. And somewhere in the back of your head, a little voice went, "Come on. It's a bunny. A big buff bunny. If it really came down to it, I could take a kangaroo." I want you to hold on to that feeling because you are not alone. There is an entire genre of the internet that is just blokes staring down a camera going, "What's it gonna do, scratch me?" A kangaroo is waist to shoulder height. It's got these skinny little arms. It hops around. It looks goofy. You've got weight on it. You've got reach. And you've got a lifetime of assuming that the animal in the funny video can't actually hurt you. So here's what I'm going to do. Over the next 20 minutes, I'm going to walk you through, move by move, exactly what happens when an average person tries to fight a kangaroo. The real anatomy, the real cases, the real numbers, including the honest ones that cut both ways. And here's the twist I want you chewing on the whole time. The boxing, the punching, the thing every single one of those cocky videos is worried about. That was never the part that could kill you. Welcome to the arena. I'm your host, and today it's you versus a kangaroo. Grab your notebook. Let's find out, honestly, how this goes. Now, the first thing you've got wrong, and it's the thing everyone gets wrong, is the word boxing. We call it boxing because when two big male kangaroos square up, they stand chest to chest and throw what look exactly like jabs. It's on every nature show, it's in every meme. And because it looks like boxing, your brain files the kangaroo under striker, same as a person, and goes, "Right, it's a punch-up. I understand punch-ups." Here's the burning question, and it runs under this whole video, so hold it. If a kangaroo really is just a furry boxer, then honestly, maybe you've got a shot. You're bigger, you can take a punch. But if that boxing is not actually the fight, if it's a bluff, a bit of theater hiding something else entirely, then everything you think you know about this fight is upside down. So let's actually look at what those arms are for. Because it is not what you think. Watch a kangaroo box in slow motion, and something stops adding up. The punches are fast, but they're not heavy. A kangaroo's forelimbs are short and light. They're not built to generate knockout power the way a heavy human arm is. So if the arms can't really hurt you, why does it lead with them? What are they actually doing? They're grabbing. That's the secret. Those forearms, tipped with real claws, aren't there to knock you out. They're there to grip, to hook onto you, pull you in, and hold you exactly where the kangaroo wants you. When two males box, half of what's happening is each one trying to grab the other's head and shoulders to set up the real attack. The punching is the distraction. The grip is the point. And I need you to feel how that flips the fight. Your entire plan, and be honest, this is your plan, is to keep it at range and land one good, clean shot. But a kangaroo doesn't want range. A kangaroo wants to close the distance, get its hands on you, and lock you in place. It is not trying to outbox you, it's trying to grab you. And the second it does, you are no longer standing where you chose to stand. You're standing where it chose to put you. Which brings us to the only question that matters. Why does it want you held still and pulled in close? What is it setting up? To answer that, forget the arms completely. Because the real weapon on a kangaroo isn't at the top, it's at the bottom. And to understand it, we have to talk about the single most underrated body part in the animal kingdom, the tail. You think of a tail as a decoration, a bit of balance, a counterweight that swings around while the animal does the real work with its legs. For almost every animal on Earth, that's true. For a kangaroo, it's completely wrong. A kangaroo's tail is not a counterweight. It is a leg. Scientists have actually measured this. When a kangaroo walks slowly, grazing, shuffling around, it doesn't hop. It plants its two little arms and then it swings both big legs forward while it pushes off with its tail. The tail is doing the job of a limb. They call it pentapedal movement, five-footed, because functionally a grazing kangaroo has 5 legs, and one of them is the tail. And that tail is thick, muscular, and strong enough to bear the animal's entire body weight on its own. Now, line that up with the fight, because here's where it turns. When a kangaroo really means business, it leans back and takes all of its weight onto that tail. Think of a tripod. Think of a stool. The tail becomes a third leg planted on the ground, a stable base holding the whole animal up. And the instant the tail is carrying the weight, what does that free up? Both of its legs at the same time. Sit with that for a second, because it's genuinely one of the nastiest bits of engineering in nature. A human can kick, but if you throw a big kick, you're standing on one leg. You're off balance, you're committed, and you're slow. A kangaroo doesn't have that problem. It parks its body weight on the tail, and now it has 2 free legs it can drive into you together, with its whole core behind them, without ever losing its balance. It is a creature that can throw a full-power, 2-footed kick and still be perfectly stable. There is nothing in your body's playbook that's ready for that. And I haven't even told you what's on the end of those legs yet, because the kick alone would just knock the wind out of you. It's what the kick is carrying that turns this from a bad day into a hospital. On the middle toe of each hind foot, a kangaroo has a claw. A long, hard, pointed claw. On a big buck, it can be around 10 centimeters, 4 inches of sharpened keratin. Now, on its own, a claw is nothing to panic about. But you don't get the claw on its own. You get the claw on the end of a leg that can deliver a kick with hundreds of kilograms of force, driven by an animal balanced on a tail so it never misses its footing. You're not being scratched. You are being raked at speed by a blade mounted on a piston. And the direction matters. When a kangaroo kicks a threat it's serious about, it grabs, remember the arms? It holds you in tight, leans back on the tail, brings both feet up against your body, and rakes downward, down your stomach. It is, anatomically, a disemboweling motion. That's not me being dramatic for views. That's just what that limb, that claw, and that angle are built to do. And if you think I'm exaggerating, let me take the theory away and give you a real person. In 2024, doctors in Australia published a medical case in a trauma journal. A 75-year-old man, not a fighter, not a daredevil, was simply closing the gate on his rural property when a kangaroo, described as about 7 feet tall, decided he was a problem. It attacked. Multiple kicks. And by the time he reached hospital, the write-up lists his injuries in that flat, clinical language that somehow makes it worse. Cuts to his face and neck, scratches down both forearms. That's from the grabbing. And then the 2 that stop you cold. A scrotal tear and a hemopneumothorax. Let me translate that last one, because it's the whole video in a single word. A hemopneumothorax means the kick was hard enough to breach his chest, to let both air and blood leak into the space around his lungs. A kangaroo kicked a grown man and partially collapsed his lung. From the outside, through the chest wall. That is the goofy bunny. That is what those 2 free legs and that tail are actually for. He survived. His wife got the car between him and the animal and drove him out. But understand what nearly happened at a farm gate on an ordinary afternoon. So let's take stock of where you are in this fight, honestly. You came in to box. The arms grabbed you instead. It pulled you into its range, sat back on its tail, and now you're being kicked in the torso by a 2-legged spring with knives on the end. You are losing. Badly. And I promised you honesty in both directions, so here's the part that's somehow worse. Because a kick isn't even the worst thing a kangaroo can do to you. There's one more move, and it only shows up near water. Kangaroos have a defense that sounds like something out of a horror film, except it's very well documented, especially against dogs. When a kangaroo is being chased and there's water nearby, a dam, a creek, a river, It will head straight for it and stand in the shallows. The pursuer follows in, and then the kangaroo uses those grabbing forearms for their final purpose. It grips the attacker, holds it against its chest, and pushes it under. It drowns it. It will stand there, chest deep, calmly holding a thrashing animal beneath the surface until it stops. Dog owners in Australia are specifically warned. If your dog chases a kangaroo toward water, you may be about to watch something terrible. So now rerun your fight with a dam behind you. You're grabbed, you're kicked, you stumble back towards the water to get away. And you've just walked into the exact situation the kangaroo is best at. The grip that was holding you for the kick becomes the grip that holds you under. This is an animal with a striking game, a grappling game, and a submission game, and you brought a plan you got from a meme. And this is the moment I have to be straight with you, because a lesser video would just keep the horror going. In 2022, in a place called Redmond, in Western Australia, a kangaroo killed a man. He was 77, an alpaca farmer, and, this matters, he had been keeping the kangaroo as a pet since it was small. It turned on him. A relative found him with severe injuries, and it was so aggressive that police couldn't even reach him to help until they dealt with the animal. He died. And here's the detail that tells you how rare this really is. It was reported as the first fatal kangaroo attack in Australia since 1936. 1936. Sit with that number, because it's the honest counterweight to everything I've just scared you with. For all that anatomy, the tail, the claw, the disemboweling kick, the drowning, a kangaroo killing a human is a once-in-almost-a-century event. One study tracked kangaroo attacks on people across a full decade and found only about 40 of them, total, in the whole country. 40. In 10 years. In a place with tens of millions of kangaroos and people living right up against them. So how do we square that? How is this animal both a genuine weapon and almost never lethal? And the answer is the thing that actually decides your fight. And it's got nothing to do with the tail or the claw. It's about what the kangaroo wants. And what it wants is nothing to do with you. Here's the reframe I've been walking you toward the whole time. A chimpanzee, when it attacks, is being violent on purpose. It's an animal that wages something like war. A kangaroo is the complete opposite. A kangaroo is a grazer. It eats grass. Its entire existence is standing in a field, chewing, watching for danger, and bouncing away from it. Everything we just talked about, the tail brace, the two-legged kick, the claw, none of it evolved to hunt you. It evolved for two things: big males settling dominance contests with each other, and a desperate last resort against the one predator that hunts them, the dingo. You are not on the menu. You were never on the menu. It has no reason to start a fight with you at all. Which means almost every single time a kangaroo attacks a person, it's not hunting, it's frightened or cornered, or defending something, or, like that farmer, a hand-raised animal that lost its fear of humans and started treating a person like a rival male. The weapon is real. The intent, almost always, simply isn't there. And that gap between what it can do and what it wants to do is the entire reason you'll probably never need any of this. So let's finally answer the question honestly. Could you beat a kangaroo in a fight? No. In an actual fight, the big buck that has decided to commit, you lose and you can get very badly hurt doing it because you're a boxer who wandered into a grappling, kicking, drowning specialist that fights off a tripod. But, and this is the honest other half, you are extraordinarily unlikely to ever be in that fight because the animal has no interest in having it. You don't win a kangaroo fight. You win by never being in one. And the way you're never in one is almost boringly simple, so let me actually give you the useful part. Don't approach them. Don't feed them. A fed kangaroo loses its fear and starts seeing you as competition. And a tame roo is far more dangerous than a wild one, because a wild one just wants to leave. Never get between a big male and the females, or a mother and her joey. If one stands up tall, coughs, or starts pawing the ground, that's not a challenge to accept. That's your cue to back away slowly. Turn side on, make yourself small and unthreatening, and give it a clear, open path to leave. That isn't through you. And whatever you do, don't back toward water. You don't out-tough a kangaroo. You give it the one thing it actually wants: distance and an exit. And that, right there, is the real reframe of this whole channel. You keep asking, could I beat it? Picturing some noble stand-up duel. But you were never built to beat these animals hand-to-hand. Not the chimp, not the kangaroo, not any of them. Your body lost that argument millions of years ago. What you were built for is reading the situation, respecting the weapon, and choosing not to be in front of it. The strongest move a human has ever had isn't a punch. It's the good sense to take a step back. So no, you can't beat a kangaroo, but you can do something better than beat it. You can watch a 200-pound animal balance on its own tail, size you up, decide you're not worth the trouble, and bounce away across a field. And you can be smart enough and calm enough to just let it go. That's not losing. Around these animals, that's the only version of winning there is. Now, if you made it all the way here, you're exactly my kind of person, so let me talk to you for a second. Welcome to Tooth and Claw Arena, where every single week we take one of these fights you've secretly wondered about, and we run it, honestly, all the way to the end. The real anatomy, the real cases, and the real answer. Not the tough guy version that gets people hurt. If watching yourself lose to a kangaroo was somehow a good time, and you learned something you can't wait to annoy your friends with, do me one favor and subscribe, because there's a whole arena of these coming and you do not want to walk into the next one unprepared. And the next one is a big one. Everybody's scared of the shark and the lion. But there's an animal that kills more people in Africa than both of them combined. It looks like a giant, sleepy, harmless barrel of a thing. And it can outrun you, bite a boat in half, and it does not bluff. Could you survive a hippo? You are going to be genuinely disturbed by the answer. That's next. Last thing. Be honest with me in the comments. Now that you know about the tail and the 2 legs and the claw, do you still back yourself against a kangaroo? If you do, type "roo" and own it, and let the rest of us quietly worry about you. I'll see you in the next one.